New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Oh, good morning. It's so good to be with you this morning after all those snafus with the internet week before last. And today I got on at the very beginning, so it was really great. So I'm welcoming everyone who is joining us for the live stream and everyone who is watching us throughout the day or throughout the weeks ahead. Please drop a line in the chat and let us know that you're here. And also join in today's discussion. If you have a comment, please put the comments in, and we can, or if you have any questions, please post your questions and we'll get to them as soon as we possibly can. And, we want this to be a discussion, not so much a lecture. And I love that. I love to have a discussion with people about these topics. And sometimes they seem a little bit heady, right? That's very, very difficult sometimes. Good morning, Ronald. Good morning. I missed the first person, Roy. Good morning, Roy, from Fort Morgan, and from Geneva, Fiona. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today. And Ignacio, great to see you. And Linda, and Colorado. We have a lot of representation from mountainous areas this today. I think Geneva is mountainous, so I've never been there, but that's what I imagine. So if you have any questions, again, please just post them and then we'll get to them as soon as possible. Now, my name is Reverend Victoria Bomberry, and we've been looking at the nature of being, spirit, soul, and body these past few weeks. Last week, Reverend Brzezinski covered chapter 6, which deals with humanity's relationship to the spiritual universe. And this week's chapter summarizes the ideas presented in the previous chapters. So we're through this part 1, and we're just going over those ideas once again. And I'm just going to dive in because, I'm noticing that every line in this chapter is so meaty and has so much in it that, we could probably talk forever just about one paragraph. But I want to jump right in so that we can get through this chapter. Now, the first paragraph reads, "There's a universal intelligence acting as law. There is formless stuff in the universe, forever taking form and forever changing its forms." So let's imagine this for a few seconds. And I love that he uses this word stuff, because we really don't know what this stuff is. The physicists have been trying to determine what is this stuff, and I think one of the latest views is that dark matter is a part of this stuff, right? and maybe a major part of this stuff. But those scientific discoveries change over time, and we just learn more and more about what this stuff might be. But it's still a mystery. It's very mysterious. So I do like that he calls it stuff. That kind of brings it down to a level that we can understand. Stuff. Yeah, I get that. So but what we know about this stuff, right, is that it's constantly changing. So let's think about that. Let's just take some time to think about this stuff that's constantly changing. And, a decade or so ago, um, I was talking with someone, and they had a program that they said kind of gave you some sort of idea of the cosmos. I don't remember exactly how they described it to me, but it had to do with how do we explore consciousness? How do we explore these ideas that we're talking about in religious science? And so it was a program, and you just watched it on a screen, and they ran the program for me, and it was amazing, and I don't because across this entire screen there were a, a constant um, all these colors and a constant change in these colors, but it was very, very intricate. So if you looked at it, you could just see these colors moving into different kinds of shapes and forms, and it was constantly in movement, and it was constantly changing form, and it was really amazing. It was so profound. It was a profound experience, and I have a hard time believing that I could have been so impacted by it by watching a screen, right? But it was a very interesting process in this program of watching form come into being and form go out of being, but also the multiplicity of form coming in and out of being. So it was relaxing, and it was exhilarating, and it was deeply impactful to see this program and to watch these changes take place. and and I think it was just a graceful rendition of the process of coming into form and moving through form, and then back to the unformed stuff, right? It was like having a view of the cosmos with stars, planets, constellations coming into form from a macro view, right? It's sort of like you could go out and imagine it on a macro view. And then you could also imagine, well, you could see these forms from a very micro view too, just thinking about microorganisms coming into being and going out of being, just this constant flux. And, to imagine and see in this program the entire cosmos or all of creation coming into being and passing through time only to reform in new and different ways. And I must have watched this process for, about an hour, like I said. It was mesmerizing to just be immersed in this. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about uh, this universal intelligence that is ever creating, and it is working through law, and it is very orderly. Coming into form may seem like it could seem chaotic in a way, but when we think about it, But as I was watching this, it didn't seem chaotic at all. It seemed like it was uh, it was configured in a way that was very beautiful, very beautiful. And one thing that I want to just kind of point out is I'm sure that, well, I know, it's a computer, so it's a mathematical uh, algorithm that created this experience for me and for everyone who watched it. And one of the things that Ernest Holmes he quotes a physicist who talks about uh, the intelligence behind all of creation as the great mathematician. So, we know that mathematics follows laws. So those natural laws that are spoken through mathematics, it's a really good analogy at any rate. So that's all we can do as we're exploring these topics is to find analogies that make sense of these very heady topics. Now, in the next paragraph, oh, first of all, before we go any further into the book, I want to just take a little step back and say a few words about, well, the next paragraph does say, a threefold nature of the universal being, which we shall call spirit, soul, and body. And he goes in a little bit different direction in this paragraph in terms of talking about this threefold nature or this triune nature of the divine. And earlier in our exploration, he did do more of a Christian take or Western Christianity take on the Trinity. And I think that this can be confusing to people because, so I want to go over it a little bit more. We're not just talking about the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And it is a useful way to pursue the question of the triune nature of the divine. It's useful, and it does bring up something that feels very warm and personal to us. And, I think that that's part of the reason that Christianity has such a, has such a power behind it because it does have that warmth and that personhood behind it. And yet, as we delve into and we grow into a greater understanding of what the divine is, that kind of that aspect can kind of move away to make room for other ways of exploration. And I don't want to throw that out because, I find Western Christianity and that warmth very comforting and a way to get into an exploration of the divine that can be very powerful. But he's moving into a different direction. Um, so, and I'll just throw out this cartoon I saw a couple months ago, or in the past year or so, in the New Yorker, and there are two priests in a break room, right? And they're drinking coffee. One is drinking coffee. He's by the coffee pot, and he's drinking coffee, and they look kind of slouchy. They're just kind of hanging out in the break room. And the other one is slouched against the counter, smoking a cigarette. And they look like they're just slacking off, right? And a third priest walks in and says, "Back to work, boys. Those mysteries of the Trinity aren't going to solve themselves." And I really laughed because I think, that's that's sort of where we find ourselves, right? We're in the mystery. And sometimes I just kind of throw up my hands and in surrender because intellectually trying to figure this out can be very difficult. And I have a much easier time when I relax into it and access it from direct experience. But those direct experiences may be few and far between. and but when you have them, they last for a lifetime. So from the earliest times, people have talked about the three faces of the divine in various ways. And a few weeks ago, I was at a festival in downtown Riverside, California, where I live. And I found this beautiful symbol. And I asked the vendor, I said, "Well, what is this? What is this symbol?" And he said, "This is the symbol of the three goddesses." And I thought, wow, I immediately got it, right? And it reminded me, yes, there are all these ways that we see that Trinity crop up in spirituality and spiritual traditions throughout the world. So this was another way of looking at it, and it was more uh, from an earth-based perspective with the maiden, the mother, and the crone representing, a certain kind of representation of the three faces of the goddess. And within those, there's all of this, again, there's that incredible energy, and that kind of closeness that we can feel when we're looking at those earth based religions. Okay, I'm going to go back to my book, and we're just going to go through this, like I said. Now, we shall think, and this is on page 129, we shall think of spirit as the great actor, soul as the medium of its action, and body the result of its action. We shall think of spirit as the only conscious actor, the power that knows itself. Okay. So we have spirit as the actor, the one doing, not just, not on a stage, but the one who is actually involved in the thought process, in planting that seed, as we use that analogy, into the soul, right? And which is the medium of its action. So the actor acts. That's that process of activation, thought, and into the medium is where it's activated. And then the body as a result of its action. So we do say that, the body is an effect, right? An effect. And that's an important thing for us to look at too, because if body is the effect, right, that's the coming into being, right, of thought, then that means that it can be affected by thought. We can change the effect if there's a new thought put into motion, right? I mean, that's on our level. So on spirit's level, spirit puts this perfect thought into soul, and this form comes into being. So, as Ernest Holmes is talking about all of these ideas, of course he's synthesizing ideas from the ancients, from Western philosophy, and also, as he moved along, he got more and more into Eastern philosophy, and especially when he had a chance to interact with the work of Troward. And Troward was a judge in India, and I believe that there's a lot of things in his writing that
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oh my goodness, my computer is talking to me. I hope it's not.
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, how do I make it stop? Excuse me. All right. I hope that I made it stop talking. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that there's a lot of things that are packed into each paragraph, and we can find these strands of Neoplatonism that run through Eastern philosophy, coming from the Vedanta tradition. We can find all kinds of things that crop up as we are reading this. So that's why I'm saying that it's very, very dense. And then we can look at, I think that Hegel comes up frequently. Kant, I think that uh, Ernest Holmes must have read Kant and extrapolated a lot of the ideas from Kant as well. So we have all of these philosophies coming into this into science of mind in an effort to make sense of to understand better the cosmos and our place within it, and also, of course, science. Right? Ernest Holmes was born at a time when science was taking a new direction, with quantum physics coming to the fore, and new ways of really thinking about the world on a level that was impossible in years before. So we know we have this actor, we have the law that is always operating, and love, and then we have the medium, which is the soul, and then the body, which is the manifestation or the form. And the next paragraph, I think this is a very, very important point that he makes. The evolution of man brings him arbitrarily to a place where true individuality functions. And I always apologize for the using language like man. We don't use that kind of language anymore. So we would say today humanity, right? To be inclusive and to include everyone in this. And I'd even go a step further, and say that when we're talking about creation, we're talking about the capacity of all beings to evolve to this place of deep understanding of what it is to be in the world. So this is an important point, and I added a lot here, but the important point is that we are at a place as human beings where true individuality functions. And I think we have to go back to that idea of knowing ourself as true individuals. And this doesn't take away from collective responsibility, from being a part of the whole, but it means that we're exploring. Uh, let's use another analogy. We're exploring this from a microscopic level. If we're looking at the individuality, right, our own particular individuation, right, then that is what we are dealing with, is something that's on the microscopic level. And just imagine that this is so fine-tuned, the cosmos is so fine-tuned that we can actually explore this very, very small, in terms of the entire cosmos, individuality, right? Each individual is unique, a unique expression of the divine. And in the theory of evolution, we have evolved. I think it's more in consciousness, right? Because we have everything. We were born with everything that we need in order to apprehend the divine, right? We've been born with that. So it's an evolution of consciousness. It's not necessarily that we have special instruments built into our body to better apprehend our individuality. It's that we are at a stage in our psychic and development of consciousness that we can explore this in a very fine grained detail. And from that day, a further evolution must be through his conscious cooperation with reality. So, what is reality? Reality here is the ultimate reality. It's not the effect that we have, that we're experiencing, and let's just use our own experience. We're experiencing life. The life that we're experiencing is an effect, right? It is something that comes into being, and it has form, and then it passes out of being, and that includes everything, right? Everything is subject to this, that it comes into form and it goes out of form. So everything is subject to this effect, right? The ultimate reality is the reality that never changes. That's a changeless, that all of those qualities that we assign to God, those are all changeless. If we look at beauty, we look at intelligence, divine intelligence, wisdom, power, those are all changeless. Light, all of those aspects that we assign to the divine, those are changeless. In the manifestation in form, they change. Everything changes. And I think that is one of the things that probably gives most people pause, and sometimes a lot of problems, right? Because sometimes we don't like change. We don't like to think about, oh, I have to move. Oh, I have to get a different job. All these kinds of things that are big changes, right? But, when we kind of get a bigger picture of the world, we know that life is change. Our bodies change, from being an infant to being a child, an adolescent, a young adult, you know, middle aged. We have this whole life cycle, which is a process of change, and there's no changing that. That's just the process of life. So that's another changeless quality. Things are coming into form and things are moving out of form. So that's the condition that we live in. And all nature awaits on man's recognition and humanity's, I'm going to change these, waits on humanity's recognition of and cooperation with her laws, and is always ready to obey their will. But humanity must use nature's forces in accordance with her laws and in cooperation with her purpose, which is goodness, truth, and beauty, if humanity wishes to attain self-mastery. So, and I kind of took the individuality out of it. So let's say if if a person wants to attain self-mastery, then they have to work according to the laws of nature. Just those natural laws. We're talking about how the universe is put together. And we can look at things that have gone on throughout history, and we can look at them and we can see where people have kind of gone off the rails, right? And have caused calamities because they've gone off the rails of this natural goodness that is our birthright and is the ultimate reality of being. So, as individuals, we have free will, we have choice, and we have this freedom to explore where we are right now in the universe. And we also have cause and effect that's at work as well. So if we do this, set that in motion, then there will be a certain kind of outcome. Now, if we do set something in motion, we can change it. We can change it. And what do we do in order to change that? We change our thinking. We put something else in its place that will bring us to a different outcome. So we have that power at our disposal. And we are at that point, Ernest Holmes is pointing this out, that we are at that point in the evolution of our consciousness that we can do that. And, I think that, one of the things that I think draws a lot of people to religious science is just that idea of self-mastery, so that we can live these lives that we want to live. And both as individuals and as our collective humanity. We're more aware of that now. We're more aware of what we do can affect the whole. We're becoming more aware of that. And we have plenty of scientific evidence that points to this truth that we do affect these conditions that we live in. And I think this is interesting in the next paragraph. Man never creates, he discovers and uses. So that's kind of amazing, to think, we put a lot of emphasis on our ability to create creativity. And and I think that's absolutely correct. There is that element. We are all creative. We can create. However, what Ernest Holmes is saying here, I believe, is that we discover and we use, and we have everything, right? It's like as if we've been put in this beautiful, beautiful studio, right? We've been put in this incredible studio that has everything that we could possibly want in it. And now, we have, if you want paints, right? Those paints are there. Everything is there. Those pigments are there that will bring the color and the life that we want to use in our paintings, right? If we're in a studio that is a studio like this one, right? We're using something that has already existed and we've discovered it and put it to work, right? I can't even imagine, all these electrons moving through these devices. And, that brings me to you and we can have this discussion. So we're discovering, all of this has been created, come into being, right? Through the divinity, the divine intelligence that has just brought all of this to us for discovery and use. This is everything that we can discover and use. And in that way, we haven't created it, right? But we have the use of it. And we can, and, we are charged, according to Ernest Holmes, with aligning with goodness, to use these things for good, for goodness, to create a world that is in harmony, that is beautiful, that is accepting, all of these things that we know as the divine. And the next paragraph is a very powerful paragraph. And I know I'm going through this and we're already at 8:37, but these are, oh, Roy, I know that we use that term, co-creators with God. And I think that that actually became very popular with the work of Matthew Fox, who did a lot of work around co-creation. And I think that, in terms of using these things, yes, we can, as individuals and as a collectivity, we can see ourselves as co-creators, with this caveat, right? That the divine has created everything, all of this stuff that that stuff, right? Whatever it is, it's already been created and it's for us to use. So in a sense, when we're partnering up with God, right? When we're in alignment with God, then we are co-creating this reality that we want to live here on this plane of existence. So I think that that's where co-creation comes into being. So does that make sense to you? So I'm kind of parsing this out as everything has already been created, and it's for us to discover and use, because anything, the ultimate reality that is perfection, we can co-create that perfection on this plane of existence. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like just being a partner and doing things here on Earth. And when Trower talks about this, he talks about when we are in that place of receiving, right, and having that deep connection with God, that is a place of deep worship and communion. So we are aligned, and that comes into, creates this energy for this good to be brought manifest into the world. So that's where the co-creation comes into effect. But Ernest Holmes does say that in this paragraph, at least, that we are discoverers and users of all of this that has already been created. So I think that that is really an important point. Now, when we, and he's talking about this evolution, and on the same page, 130, in the next to last paragraph, in the last line of that next to last paragraph, it says that humans now realize that they are a thinking center in a universal mind. So when we start to we start to individuate, that means that we become self-conscious of ourselves as individuals, and that we are a thinking center in a universal mind. So we're able to think as thinking centers, right? As individuals. So we have the power of thought. We have the power of putting things into this creative medium and having it manifest. So we have the macro and we have this micro, right? That's how Ernest Holmes talks about it. And we're the micro. We are exactly made of all of this God stuff. That's nothing can be outside of God, right? And yet we have this free will and this ability to explore. And as individuals and explorers, we make mistakes, right? And we learn from our mistakes. And if we keep in mind that we are here to create goodness, we're here to spread that good, then we correct those mistakes and move toward goodness every time we have a misstep. And on the next page, 131, spirit acting upon soul produces creation. Spirit, soul, and substance intersperse each other, each being omnipresent. Creation takes place within spirit and is the result of contemplation of the self-knowingness of spirit. So if we're to, there's nothing that is malicious or bad in spirit. Absolutely nothing. That is the perfection. So we are, Paul says, we're looking at things as if we're looking through a darkened glass, right? So we don't have a clear image quite yet of who we are. I think that's what Paul was saying. We don't really know who we are yet. We're looking at through this glass darkly. But as we evolve our consciousness, things become more clarified and clear to us, and we step in to this place of self-mastery where we are able to monitor our thoughts, to clarify our thought, to enact and use these laws for the betterment of all of us, right? For all of creation. And I really do believe that as we do that here on Earth, that it does have an effect throughout the cosmos, because we are in that one mind. So whatever we do adds to this collectivity in this coming together of form and going out of form. We are almost at our time. And I want to make a final comment. So as we are coming into knowing who we are, it's really, this is all of it, right? This is the crux of it. As we come into our self-knowingness, we realize our divinity and our unity with spirit, so that there is no separation at all between this individual, the individual Victoria, and the divine. I know who I am. And I always love that the Buddha said, "Oh, noble one, remember who you are." We have that nobility of spirit. We are the divine. And we are here to practice self-mastery, get control of that ego. Give that ego a rest, please. and just align with the divine, come into union with the divine, and live from that place of goodness, beauty, harmony, and peace. If we broadcast that from this divine thinking center, things change. The world becomes an exact mirror of the divine. So, everyone, I'm so happy that you are here with us today. And if there's any questions, please ask them. And thank you for that. Oh, Linda, that's a great question. If everything has been created, does that mean that it's finite? There's all kinds of theories in science about that. There's people who are saying that the universe is finite, right? Or the cosmos is finite. And there's others who say it's infinite. That's in science. In religious science, we say that it is infinite. And creation is an ongoing process. So the divine is constantly creating. It's constantly creating, but there are these laws that are in place according to science of mind that dictate, how it comes into being, right? And that's what we can use, and that's what we can discover, right? So I believe, and our teachings believe that everything is infinite and that creation is ongoing. So yes, in infinite, we have infinite potentiality. Thank you, Linda, for that great question. Any other questions this morning? Any comments? Okay, I just want to remind everyone that we are so grateful for all of the donations that keep these programs coming. And I am so grateful for New Thought Network because, it's really given us a great place to come together for these discussions, to come together to explore, to come together to just be in community, to pray together. There's all kinds of programs here. And, it is just a wonderful place to meet up and find out something new, find out a different take on all of these ideas. And, it is just a thrill to be here with you. So everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful week. And know that you are that divine thinking center. Remember who you are.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.